Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lauren Henry. I'm a Nigerian fashion designer, a pattern maker, and a fashion tutor. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to draft the trouser block. Now, trousers are things that people usually like, it's the thing. But then in drafting it could sometimes be a bit tricky. Sometimes we have fit issues, things not sitting right or not fitting the right way. Things just can happen in trousers if you don't get the cuts right. And that's what this video is for. This video is to show you how to draft the trouser block correctly. Now, trust me, this technique I'm about to show you is something I have worked on for years. And when I say worked on for years, I don't mean I came up with it myself, right? But it is a combination of different techniques that I've had to learn over time. Why? So sometimes you learn a new technique and you feel, oh, this thing will just be perfect, it's going to work out, and then you try the trouser and realize, the cut just does not sit right. I've had that, over time. Of course, I've made great trousers, I've made good trousers, but then over time I've just had to tweak things here and there, and that's the reason why I'm creating this video to show you how I now draft my trouser blocks. And trust me, it's going to be very useful to you because I have been through it. I've had some great trousers, I've had bad ones too. So this is a result of my experience, my failures, and my now wins. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, it's a combination of different techniques that I've had to learn over time. I would not say that I own the right to this technique, no, not at all. But I've just been able to combine different techniques into one to give you what I would show you in this video. To draft the trouser, you're going to need certain measurements. The first measurement you need, of course, is the trouser length measurement, which is measured from the waist downwards to the hem or the ankle of the trousers. Then you're also going to need the waist measurement. Of course, you're going to need a waist measurement. The waist measurement you're going to use depends on where you want your trousers to sit. If you want your trousers to be high-waisted, which of course most of us like, around the slimest part of our upper body, that is the waist measurement you're going to use. Some other people like their trousers to sit on their belly buttons. Now, if that's the waist that you'd like to use, then that's the waist circumference you're going to measure to make your trouser block. So the waist you use to draft your trouser block depends on the waist you want your trousers to sit. Yes, you can always raise or drop, depending on the kind of trouser style you want, because you can want high waist, you can decide that you want the low rise trousers. You can always raise or drop your trouser block, but I would advise you to make the trouser block in the waist that you would always make your trousers in. For me, I use the belly button, around my belly button. That's the waist measurements I use to draft my trouser blocks. Another measurement you're going to need, of course, is the hip measurement. We all know how to measure the hip, so you're going to measure around your hip for this. And then you would also need the crotch depth measurement. Now, the crotch depth is either called the seat or the body rise measurement. This is a measurement from your waist down to where your bum hits the seat. So you're supposed to sit on a flat surface. You or your model should be sitting on a flat surface, and then you measure from the waist down to where the bum hits the seat. Another measurement you're also going to need is the trouser bottom measurement. Now, this is measured around the ankle, but then it is more like the fullest part of your foot. You're measuring around the fullest part of your foot, so from the heel upwards. That is how to measure the trouser bottom. So these are the measurements that we're going to need to draft this trouser block. Notice I did not talk about the thigh, the knee. I didn't talk about any of that. These measurements that I have just mentioned are good enough to create your trouser block, and I will show you how to do that right now. So this is what we'll be creating. This is a trouser block. The front and the back are drafted together. We'll start from the front and then we move to the back, but this is what it looks like. Now let's get into the tools that we need. The first tool we need, of course, is the pattern master. It's absolutely important for any pattern you would make. Of course, we have the hip curve, the leg curve, the meter ruler, straight ruler. You need this because we're working with long lines. You need your measuring tape, your marker and pencil in your case, then a pair of scissors and a tracing wheel. Because we need to trace the front from the back, we'll need the tracing wheel, and of course you also need paper, pattern paper. So to start our draft, we're going to create the margins for this block. The first thing I'll do is just to measure 5 cm from the top of my paper. So that left edge is actually the top of my paper. I'm going to measure a 5 cm line there. So I'm creating a margin of 5 cm. That's what I'm marking now. So now that I've marked the points, I'll connect them with a line. So using my straight ruler, I'll just connect all of those points with a line, and this would be my margin. And on this line is where I would have point 0, which is where the draft would start. So the next thing I'll do now is to find that 0. You measure the line, measure that line and find the midpoint. The midpoint is where point 0 would be. Now that I found 0, the next thing I'll need to do is to square down from point 0 all the way to the end of my paper. So we're squaring out a vertical line now. The line where line 0, the initial line we drew was a horizontal line. Now we're drawing a perpendicular vertical line. So you're just squaring down using your pattern master. In case you're not sure of your pattern master, like I'm doing now, I'm just going to measure that same midpoint just so that I'm sure that my line is very straight. I measured the same, the measurement of that midpoint is what I also placed there, and I'm connecting with a line now just so that I don't end up with a slanted line, which would not be good for me. So now that I've gotten this line, the next thing we're going to do would be 0 to 1. 0 to 1 is the crotch depth measurement, and my crotch depth measurement is 26 cm. So I'm just measuring 26 cm from 0 downwards on that vertical line, and that's where my point 1 will be. Then you square out on both sides of that point. So you must make sure that you square out a line on both sides of that point, and then you label the intersection point 1. So where those two lines intersect is where you'd label point 1, just as I'm doing now. After getting point 1, our next point is 1 to 2. Now 1 to 2 is a third of 0 to 1. Basically, whatever you have for 0 to 1, in my case is 26, you divide that by 3. So 26 divided by 3 would give me 8.7 cm approximately. So I'll measure 8.7 cm from point 1 upwards. 8.7 cm from point 1 upwards, and then I'll mark that point 2. Then, of course, I would also square out on both sides of that point 2. You square out horizontal lines on both sides of point 2 and label that, of course. Our next point now is 0 to 3. 0 to 3 is your trouser length measurement. So if your trouser is going to sit on your belly button, the measurement from that waist to your ankle, or however long you want your trousers to be, is what you would mark there. This depends on your measurement. So that is point 3, and then you would also square out on both sides of that point 3. Now, because we are making a block, it is ideal that you use your ankle as the length, where your length stops of your trouser. So for me there, that's where my point 3 will be. That's the ankle length. Now the next point is 1 to 4. 1 to 4 is the measurement of 1 to 3 divided by 2 minus 5 cm. So we'll measure what we have for 1.1 to 0.3. So my 1 to 3 is 88 cm. Now, based on the calculation, is 88 divided by 2, that's 44. Then minus 5 cm, that will give me 39. So I'm going to measure 39 cm from point 1 to get point 4. I'm going to measure 39 cm from point 1 to get point 4. So that's my point 4 now. And then I'll square out on both sides of that line. Square out on both sides of the line. Now don't forget that you don't need to cram all of this. I have a guide that you can use to get this, or follow this video, whichever one, but I also have a written guide that you can get, so you can do this on your own. So we've gotten point 4. Our next point now is 1 to 5. Point 1 to 5 is your hip measurements divided by 12. the hip measurement divided by 12 plus 1.5 cm. Now my hip is 102. 102 divided by 12 is 8.5 plus 1.5 cm is 10. So I'm going to measure 10 cm now from point 1 to the left. 10 cm from point 1 to the left, that is now my point 5. After getting point 5, you're supposed to square up a vertical line until it touches line 0, just as I have done. Then you label that 0.6 and 0.7. So just as I have done, you label 0.6 on line 2 and 0.7 on line 0. Now our next point is 6 to 8. 6 to 8 is the hip measurement divided by 4 plus 0.5 cm. So my hip is 102 divided by 4 is 25.5 plus 0.5 cm is 26. So I'm going to measure 26 cm from 0.6 to the right, just as I'm doing now. 26 cm would give me 0.8. That's my 0.8. So this is basically the width of my hip. Our next point is 5 to 9. 5 to 9 is the hip measurement divided by 16 plus 0.5 cm. So once you calculate that, my hip is 102 divided by 16 plus 0.5 will give me 6.9 cm. So that's 6.9. I'll measure from 0.5 to the left, and that's my 0.9. Then the next point is 7 to 10. 7 to 10 is simply 1 cm. So just 1 cm to the right of 7 would be my 0.10. Now all of these points are helping me get my the curve of my front crotch. So I've gotten all the points. That's 0.10. I can actually draw my front crotch right now. Now to draw my front crotch, I need to create a guide at 0.5. I need to create an angle at 0.5 so that I'm able to curve out that crotch. So we need to use your protractor now to get that angle 45 degrees line from 0.5. So that's what I'm trying to do now, to get the angle 45 degrees. I've gotten that point. So you might have, if you have a pattern master, you'd have a protractor on it. If not, you can get a protractor on its own. So I've gotten the point of my 45 degrees, and I'm going to then draw the line. Now the length of this line depends on the size of the trouser you are making. So if you're making a size 8 or 10 or 14, there's a particular length. For the size 10, for example, the length of that line is 3 cm. And I'm going to connect point 10 to point 6 to that angle at 0.5 and down to 9 with my curve as I am doing now. Just follow the guide. The way I'm using my curve, that's how you're going to draw yours. Now that angle is important so that you don't make it too wide or too flat. You need to get that curve perfectly. Yeah, so this is what the front crotch looks like. So the measurement for the length of that 45-degree angle that we need to create, if you're making a block for a size 6 and 8, the length of that line will be 2.75 cm. 2.75 cm for size 6 to 8. If you're making for a size 10 to a size 14, the length of that line will be 3 cm. Size 16 to size 20, 3.25 cm, while for a size 22 to size 26, the length of that line will be 3.5 cm. And these are all UK sizes. So our next point now is points 10 to 11. 10 to 11 is the waist measurement divided by 4 plus 2.25 cm. So whatever your waist measurement is, you divide that by 4 and then you add 2.25 cm. Now that 2.25 includes the width of the dots that we're going to create, and then 0.25 there is the ease that we've added to that waist measurement. So once you get that, you mark that point 11. So that is point 11. Our next point now is points 3 to 12. 3 to 12 is the trouser bottom measurement divided by 4. So now whatever the measurement of your trouser bottom is, you divide that by 4 and then you measure from point 3 to the right. You measure from point 3 to the right. So this is where I'm marking it. I'm marking my point 12 now. Label that point 12. And our next point is 4 to 13. Now 4 to 13, of course, is on that line 4. It is the measurement of 3 to 12 plus 1.3 cm. So my 3 to 12 was 9.5 cm plus 1.3 cm would be 10.8. Now for sizes that are bigger than mine, you use this 1.3 cm for sizes 8 to 14. But for sizes higher than 14, which is from 16 to 20, the measurement that you add is 1.5 cm, while from size 20 to 24, the measurement you add is 1.7 cm. So it all depends on the size that you are making. Remember, from size 6 to 14, it is 1.3. For 16 to 20, 1.5, and 22 to 24, 1.7 cm. So you just need to take note of these measurements, and it depends on the size you are making for. You use whatever the measurement I've given, whatever it is, you add that to your 3 to 12 measurement. So remember that mine is 9.5 plus 1.3 cm is 10.8. So I'm going to measure 10.8 now from point 4 to the right. 10.8 cm from point 4 to the right. And now this measurement is helping us get the width of the knee, meaning the round knee. You don't even have to measure. Pattern making just helps you derive that measurement. So we've gotten point 13 now. The next point is 3 to 14. Point 3 to 14 is the same measurement as 3 to 12. And don't forget, my 3 to 12 was 9.5 cm. So I'm going to still measure 9.5 cm from point 3 to the left now. And that will be my point 14. Now, the next measurement we're going to do here is 4 to 15. 4 to 15 is the same measurement as 4 to 13. So remember, it was 10.8 for me. I'm still measuring the 10.8 now, but on the other side, and you label that point 15. So now we've gotten the outline of our front trouser block. This is the inside leg, and then that is the outside leg. We've gotten all the points that would give us these legs, and now it's time for us to create the lines. So with a faint line, you will connect point 11 to point 8. Make sure your line is very faint. This is not the actual thing. I'm sure you can barely see my line, so I would have to use something else. I have to use a bolder pen to do this. But the idea is you find the midpoint of that line. You draw the line and you find the midpoint. So yeah, something bolder now, drawing that line, and then I'll find the midpoint of that line. So the next is from 8 to 13. I'll connect the line 8 to 13 with the same very faint line, and then I'll find the midpoint of that line. Now the reason why I'm finding midpoints is because I need to curve these lines. So the next point will connect point 9 to point 15, still with the faint line, and then find the midpoint of the line, because there will be yet another curve there. So that's the midpoint. And then for the final legs, we would connect those ones with bold lines. So 15 to 14 and 12 to 13, these will be connected with bold lines, no more faint lines. We're not covering anything there. So I'm going to use my marker now to connect those lines. So that's points 14 to 15, and then connect 12 to 13. So now I'll show you where we need those midpoints at these different lines. The midpoint at 8 to 11, you measure 0.5 cm outwards. So I made a mistake and I made it 1 cm, but it's supposed to be 0.5 cm. I corrected that eventually. Then at 13 to 8, 0.5 cm inwards. So 0.5 cm inwards at 13 to 8, and then at 14 to 9 it is 1 cm inwards. So yeah, I'm correcting the one at 8 to 11, that is 0.5 cm. It's supposed to be 0.5 cm outwards. So remember, it is 0.5 cm outwards for 11 to 8, and then 0.5 cm inwards for 8 to 13, and then 1 cm inwards for 9 to 15. Just take note of that. And these are the curves I'll be using to get this done. For 11 to 8, that's where the hip falls, so I'm using a hip curve to connect 11 through that 0.5 cm at the midpoint to point 8. So you're going to make sure you connect all 3 points at the same time to give you the curve of the hip. So the reason for that midpoint, so just so that you don't overly curve your hip and then it looks funny, is a pair of trousers we're making. We don't want it to be overly curved. Now, using my leg curve, I'm going to connect points 8 through that 0.5 cm inwards to point 13. Now, if you don't have a leg curve, you can use your hip curve too, but make sure you use the part of the hip curve that is not overly curved. You know, there's always a straight part of the curve. So like I said, I'm connecting 8 to the midpoints at that 0.5 cm inwards to point 13. You connect all 3 points at the same time, and I have my outside leg or my side seam. So now for the inside leg or inseam, you connect 9 through that 1 cm at the midpoint to point 15. I'm using my hip curve for this because it tends to be more curved than the outside leg. So that's what I've done here. Now we're going to create a dart at the waist. That's just what we've not done. And the width of the dart is 2 cm and it falls on that line 0. So we're going to measure 1 cm on both sides of 0. Measure 1 cm on both sides of 0. That gives us 2 cm as the width of our dart. Remember, we added 2 cm to the waist. Now the length of that line is 10 cm. The length of the dart is 10 cm. So I've measured the 10 cm, and now you connect it to the 1 cms that you just marked. This is the dart that happens on the trouser waist, or the front trouser. This is the dart that happens on the front trouser waist. So this is what our front trouser looks like. We have the crotch at the center front, we have the side seam, we have the inseam, and of course all the important lines are all there. And it is from this that we would create the back trouser. From this figure that we have is what we would use to create the back trouser. Now, to create the back trouser, we don't need to start to create new margins or new lines. We're going to use the same lines, the same knee line, the same waist crotch line, as we're using the same thing. But I'm just going to use a red marker now to differentiate the front from the back. And I would also use broken lines to further differentiate the two, just so you do not make the mistake of which one is the front and which one is the back. So everything you see, the black is for the front and then the red will be from the back. Now, our first point is 5 to 16. 5 to 16 is the measurement of 1 to 5 divided by 4. I remember our 1 to 5 was 10 cm, divided by 4 will be 2.5. So I'm measuring 2.5 cm now from 0.5 to the right. So that's my point 16, and then we're going to square up from that 16. Square up from 16 till it meets line 0. You're squaring up with a vertical line, of course, till it meets line 0. So I'm just marking that with my broken lines. I'm going to mark that. Just make sure I'm making sure that it's perfectly straight. So it goes all the way to line 0. And then, so where this new line meets line 2 would be 0.17, and then where it meets line 0 will be 0.18. Now 0.19 is the midway between 18 and 16. So it's the midway of that line. And remember that our 18 to 16 will be 26 cm, just as our 0 to 1 was, because it's the same length. So 26 divided by 2 is 13 cm. I'm just going to measure 13 cm from 0.18 downwards, and that would give me 0.19. That's the midpoint between 18 and 16. That's 0.19. So our next point now is 18 to 20. 18 to 20 is 2 cm from 18 to the right. 2 cm from 18 to the right. Just mark that and label point 20. Now, after getting point 20, you need 20 to 21. It is 2 cm upwards from point 20. So just square up 2 cm from 20, that would give us 21. And now from 21, we need to get 21 to 22. That's our waist measurement divided by 4 plus 4.25 cm. It is the waist measurement divided by 4 plus 4.25 cm. Now the 4 cm out of the 4.25 is for the data we're going to create, while the 0.25 added there is also is. So whatever your waist measurement is, you divide by 4 plus 4.25 cm. So now measuring that from point 21 until it meets line 0 is going to be a slanted line. Until that measurement meets line 0, that would then be my point 22. So you see me checking now. You can see that already it is a slanted line. So once I get that, I'm just going to mark and label that point 22. Then I'll use my ruler to connect the points, and that will be my back waist line. Now that we've gotten 22, our next point is 9 to 23. Now 9 to 23 is the measurement of 5 to 9 divided by 2. It's a measurement of 5 to 9 divided by 2. Now don't forget our 5 to 9 was 6.9 cm. You could also measure, but whatever your 5 to 9 is, you divide by 2. So mine was 6.9 divided by 2 will be 3.45, basically 3.5. So I'm measuring that 3.45 now from point 9 to the left, and you label that point 23. Then the next point after that is 23 to 24. It is simply 0.5 cm downwards from 23. 0.5 cm downwards from 23 is point 24. Now we're doing all of this to get the back crotch curve. Yeah, so now we've gotten point 24, we can draw out our back crotch. But to get that, we also need to create that angle at point 16. The same angle, you remember the angle we created at point 5, we're going to create something similar at point 16. So using your protractor again, you place that to get the angle 45 degrees, and then you mark. But then the length of the line would be different for the back. So because I'm working on a size 10 block, the length of that angle 45 line would be 4.25 cm. Because it is size 10, I'm going to measure 4.25 now from point 16, following the 45-degree angle, 4.25 cm. For size 6 to 8, the length of the line is 4 cm. For 16 to 20, it is 4.5 cm. For 22 to 26, it is 4.75 cm. Well, of course, for 10 to 14, it is 4.25, just as I have done now. So we're going to connect these points. I'm going to connect point 21 to point 19, and then to that angle, angle 45 degrees at 16. I'm going to connect all of these points. I'm using my hip curve now. I'm using my pattern master, to do this, connecting 21 to 19. Then I've just moved it slightly to connect to that angle. So you are the master of your curve. You're supposed to move it however, manipulate it however can give you this perfect curve as I'm drawing now. So now I'm going to connect that angle to point 24. Now the idea is it must end flat at the back crotch. So you can see the way it's ending flat. It must end flat at point 24. You can see it's not overly curved when it comes down to 24. You have to make it flat. So this is what the back trouser crotch looks like. You can see that it is slightly longer than the front because of course there's the bum. Now our next point is 17 to 25. It is the hip measurement divided by 4 plus 1.5 cm. It is the hip measurement divided by 4 plus 1.5 cm. So my hip is 102 divided by 4 plus 1.5. I believe it will give me 27 cm. 27 cm. I'm measuring 27 cm from point 17 to the right. So you notice that it looks slightly wider than the front. So this is it. That's where point 25 falls. Our next point is 3 to 26. It is basically 1 cm from point 12. Just measure 1 cm outwards from point 12 and it will give you point 26. So 1 cm will give point 26. 1 cm outwards, meaning 1 cm to the right, will give us point 26. Then the next point is 13 to 27. It is also 1 cm outwards. The back is slightly bigger than the front. So 1 cm outwards, that's point 27. Then 14 to 28 is also 1 cm outwards, meaning 1 cm to the left in this case for 14 to 28. And then we have 15 to 29, also 1 cm outwards. 15 to 29, 1 cm outwards. So now we've gotten the points that will give us the outline of our back trouser legs. We've gotten all the points necessary. So we're going to create the same guides. You remember those faint lines we created for the front? We're doing the same thing for the back. I'm connecting 22 to 25 with a faint line. Remember, we'll find the midpoint also. Then you connect 25 to 27 also with a faint line. Connect 25 to 27 with a faint line. And then you connect 24. 24 is where the back crotch ends. So 24 to 29, you connect that also with a faint line. So now I'm going to measure the midpoints of those lines. I'm going to measure this one now, find the midpoint of it. Then move to 25 to 27, find the midpoint. And then 22 to 25, find the midpoint. So now that I'm done with the faint lines, I'm going to connect 27 to 26 with a bold line, because this part of course is not going to be curved, so we'll connect with bold lines. And then on the other side, that's 29 to 28, bold lines. So remember I said I'm going to use broken lines to indicate my back, so that's why I'm using broken lines. This is just to show that it is the back, but that's a bold straight line. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Bold straight lines. So now that that's done, it's time to mark out the guides on how to curve. So at 22 to 25, I'm going to measure 0.5 cm outwards, 22 to 25, 0.5 cm outwards, just as we did for the front. And then for 25 to 27, it is 0.5 cm inwards, 0.5 cm inwards for 25 to 27. And then for 24 to 29, it is 1 cm inwards. Now don't forget that 24 is the end of the back crotch. Yes, so 1 cm inwards. So it's time for me to use my hip curve now to connect the points. Remember, you're the master of your curve, so I'm going to connect 22 through the 0.5 cm at the midpoint to point 25. 22 through the 0.5 cm to point 25. Then I've done that now. Connected all 3 points at once. Then I'll use my leg curve now to connect 25 to 27. I'm saying this again, you're the master of your curve. You're supposed to make it work for you and look like what it's supposed to look like, you know. So now I've gotten the perfect curve, and I'm drawing out my lines. So now it's time to draw the line of 24 to 29 with my hip curve now. I'm going to connect from point 24. Notice how I moved it to the more straighter part. Yeah. So you connect 24 through that 1 cm at the midpoint to point 29. This is to give us the inside leg or the inseam of the back trouser block. So this is the outline of our back trouser. You can see the front, you can see the back, and I'm sure you can tell the differences between the two. So we have the outside leg, that's the waistline, the back crotch, and then the inseam of the back. This is basically the back trouser block, super easy to achieve. Now the next thing we're going to do is to create darts at the back waist. That's all that's missing now. And for this trouser block, we actually get to create 2 darts. So the idea is you divide the measurement of that back waist into 3 places. You divide the measurement of that back waist by 3, and then you mark that measurement in 2 places. That's what it means to divide by 3. So the measurement of my back waist I have now is 24.75. Remember, we added 4.25 cm to the actual waist measurement. Now that 24.75 you divide by 3, and that will be 8.25. So I'm going to measure that now on the back waist. So I'm marking the first point from point 21. You measure 8.25 to the right, and then this would be point 30. You label that point 30. Then from that point 30 you measure another 8.25, and that would be point 31. The second point is 31. Now the width of these dots are 2 cm each. So at 30 we have 2 cm, at 31 we have 2 cm, meaning you're going to share 1 cm on both sides of 30, and then share the other 2 cm on both sides of 31. So 1 cm on both sides of 30 and 31 to give us the 4 cm dots. Now that's one dot and that's the other dot. Now the length, we need to get the length of the dot. The length of the dot at point 30 is 12 cm long. So you're going to square down from point 30 by 12 cm. Now don't worry about it getting into your front darts. Remember that it doesn't matter because we're going to separate the front from the back, and make sure that you're also squaring out properly from the slanted line where 30 actually falls. So you draw the line 12 cm for the dot at 30. It is 12 cm long and then 2 cm wide. Then I'm connecting it to the 1 cm points. So that's done. The dot at 30 is done. It's time to do the dot at 31. The length of this dot is 10 cm. So we square down by 10 cm, and also make sure you are squaring down from the slanted line, and then you connect it to the 1 cm points on both sides of 31. And now we have created our dots. So we've actually finished drafting the trouser block. We have our dots here, we have the back dots, we have the front dots, and we have our trouser figure. So this is the classic trouser block. That's the front, and then we have the back. All the reds at the back, the black is the front. Now what we're going to do next is to trace. You need to separate the front from the back, and the only way to do that is to trace. So now we're going to use a tracing wheel to trace either the front or the back, or you can do both. You can trace out both of them if you would like to. Of course, you're going to make sure you trace all the important lines: the hip line, which is where line 2 falls, line 1, which is the crotch line, the knee line, the hem line, or the ankle. Trace out the dots for either the front or the back. Just trace out all the important lines when you are separating. So I must say again that you have to be careful not to trace out 3 dots when you are tracing the back trouser. It's only those 2 dots. That the one in black is not for the back, it is for the front. So it's those 2 dots in red that are for the back. So these are the things you will trace when you're tracing the back block out. And of course, there are also the other important lines I need to trace. I'll just show you is line 2, which is the hip line. So we have line 1, the crotch depth line, the knee line, and then the ankle line. So these lines are important to trace whether you're tracing the back or the front. And then also you need to make sure you trace out the center green line, because that is absolutely important. Whether you're tracing the front or the back, you need to trace out that line. So that green line shows you the actual center of your trouser. So it's very important for you to take note of that for the front and for the back. So next I'm just going to show you how I trace out and then add my allowances. So here I've placed a new sheet of paper under my pattern because I'm going to use my tracing wheel now to trace out the back trouser block. So now just watch me as I trace so you see, how I'm able to, like, all the lines, all the important lines that you need to take note of when you are also tracing. So I've traced out all the important lines of the back now, and it's time to outline it on the new pattern. So just follow me as I do this, drawing out all the important lines, the dots, and everything that has to do with the back, and you'd see what it looks like on its own. Now I'm going to label the center back, the hip line, the crotch depth line, the knee line, and then the ankle or the hem. Then I'm adding allowances. I'm basically adding half an inch or 1.5 cm all through, all the lines. I have 1.1. I used half an inch at the crotch and then half an inch for the inside leg seam. And then I'm also going to use half an inch for the side seam. Then for the hem, I'm going to make it wider. I believe I'm using 4 cm. I'm going to use 4 cm for the hem because you need enough room for you to turn your trousers so that they hang properly. So if sometimes some people even do more than the 4 cm, but then 4 cm is fine for your allowances. Now this is the back trouser block, and I made this for a size 10. You can make this in your own measurements. And yeah, now moving to the front, I'm also going to trace again all the important lines for the front, and you're just going to watch me as I do that, and I'll also, outline it and add the allowances. Now I'm done tracing. I'm just going to take that out and outline the front trouser block. Now this trouser block is just a basic trouser. It's like what you'd have, as your classic pair of pants, the ones that hang at the ankle. But then you can you can make this into any other type of trouser. You can make them into palazzo pants, you can make them into boot cut pants, you can literally do anything with this, because this is what we've made here is a foundation. Although on its own it's a style, but then you can work with it, to make any other style, because what we've done here is to create the block using our exact measurements, and then you can adapt this into any other style. So this is the front. I've labeled all the points, and then I'm going to go ahead to add my allowances. But then for the sake of this video, I decided to do something extra. I decided to add a fly front, zipper to this pattern, as I was making a fly front pattern, just to show you, it's just an extra. It's not part of, it's really not the most important part of this. Now the fly front zipper is what you find in your jeans and then your classic pants. That's what I'm just showing you how to create here. The extension that would need to do at the center front is by 5 cm. So just extend from the waist. You extend 5 cm from the center front to the left, depending on where your pattern is facing. We are just extending it outwards, and then the length of that fly front is 19 cm, but this depends on the waist of the trouser you are working on. But for me, that I have my waist now happening on my belly button, I'm doing a 119 cm extension. Then what I'm going to do next is to square down, square down to about 16 cm. You square down to about 16 cm, you stop, and then you're going to curve that 16 cm into the 19 cm. So this is basically what the fly front extension looks like. Like I said, this is a plus to this video is really about the trouser block. This was just an addition. So yeah, I'm adding all of my allowances now. I'm still doing the half an inch all around it, half an inch all around the seams, and again, like I did for the back, I'm going to do a 4 cm at the hem. So that's what I'm doing here. Of course, if you're making trousers that do not require the fly front zipper, maybe you have your zip at the side, then you will not need to do this extension I did here. You're just going to add your half an inch allowance at your center front crotch. That is all. And for me, most times that's actually how I make my trousers. Like I said, I just wanted to put this as an extra for you all. So I'm cutting out my patterns now. In this, you can see that I made a pocket. I will do a separate video showing you how to create all the parts of the trouser, but this video is already too long, to show it all. So you see now I'm folding in that extension, because this is really what your trouser pattern will look like after you've added allowance, if your trouser would have a side zip. So this is what it will really look like. So now I'm going ahead to cut the back. This is what the back pattern looks like. And of course, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comment section. I would respond. To that. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe, share it to all of your friends so they all learn how to make this trouser. This is what my patterns look like. I made the bands and all that. And don't forget, I said I'm going to do a separate video to show you all the parts of the trouser. But this is what my trouser, a basic trouser pattern, should look like. It should have all of these pieces. So I went ahead to make a pair of pants using this block. I made it into a different style. See how it looks. Perfect fit, comfortable, just fit in all the right places. So if you got to the end of this video, then you're the real MVP for staying the entire length of this video. Thanks for watching it. I hope you actually learned something. If you have questions, please drop them in the comments. I will definitely respond to them. I hope you try this technique, and then of course let me know how it goes. You can find me on Instagram at thefashionarchitect.co. Find me on TikTok also at thefashionarchitect.co. And just tag me if you make the trousers using this style. You can tag me in your picture or in your post, and I would see it and most likely share it. So thanks a lot for watching this video, and please let me know what other blogs you would like me to make. I will be making other things. Just let me know what you liked, what other things you would like to see on the channel going forward, and I'll definitely be doing some of them. So please share this video so other people can benefit from this free information, so they can also learn from this and do better. That's the whole essence of this channel, so that we all learn new things, because when we know better, we will do better. So don't forget to like this video, and if you've not subscribed to this channel, please do that right now, because why not? There's a whole lot to gain on this channel. It's a community that we're trying to build, so please subscribe and be a part of the community. And also please share, turn on the notification bell so that you get notified when a new video drops and you don't miss anything. So thanks again for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.